everyone, my name is Dan Shimolinski. People like to call me Chimy, and you can too. I am a bassist, sound designer, and composer living in Los Angeles, and today we are back checking out the latest and greatest from the Hybrid Cinema series. This is cinematic drum kits. Now, if you've been to a movie theater in the last 20, 30, maybe 40 years, you know that percussive elements and percussion is the backbone of a solid film score. There are so many complex percussive elements that just help a plot move along, engage a viewer, and we don't necessarily even register it as a percussive instrument. But they are, and we have looked at many percussive elements in the Hybrid Cinema series. And this specific library is a little more approach-oriented. If you are someone who thinks in terms of kits, if you want to play your cinematic percussion scores as a part, as an instrument, this is going to be a great tool for you to have. I can't wait to show it to you, so let's dive in. As always, we're going to check out the parts that you get with cinematic drum kits and then head over to the program section, check out this stuff in action, and make a program from scratch. You get 8 parts with cinematic drum kits, and as I've said many times, I think that the labeling and descriptors used to describe specific parts are pretty on the nose, and this library is no exception. If you come from a drum kit background, you will feel right at home. If you are a composer or producer that really enjoys the kit approach to scoring and kind of dealing with percussive elements, this is going to be a great library for you, as you will soon see. So I want to break these down for you and just kind of give you some general observations. This first part here is called Assorted Percussion. This is a wide variety of kind of cinematic percussive elements that you may hear in a modern score, all very clean, very velocity and round robin heavy. You'll notice that's kind of a theme throughout all of these, is really just trying to give you as much variety from note to note, even if the sample is the same. You'll notice that the round robins really make a huge difference here and kind of just keep things alive and organic and really moving along in a fun, interesting way. So as you'll hear, the velocities make a huge difference here. I mean, we're literally getting a different aspect of the instrument the harder you hit it. If it's really muffled down, it's kind of just your standard kick, but then if you really lean into it, and even from note to note, you can hear little variations. That's those round robins. Just little timbral shifts. I mean, I'm pushing, it's still registering the same velocity, but it sounds different. So that's a super useful way to get a varied sound, a varied timbre, keeping things kind of feeling very organic while maybe staying on one note or repeating a single note. Moving on to Cine kicks. This is kind of a cinematic modern interpretation of the 808 kick sound. Continuing on with the theme of velocity and round robin focused, this is definitely more expressive and kind of geared towards a clean, crisp cinema kick. Could really, I mean, the velocity stuff is just awesome throughout. Super useful. Moving on to epic bass drums. This is the latest evolution of the Hybrid Cinema series when it comes to bass drum tones, and it really kind of focuses on using velocities, not only with just volume and round robins, but also there's filtering stuff that happens in here as well. So the harder you hit, maybe the more open the filter was when they were sampling these. Really, really useful for kind of a good punchy sequence that has like a lot of velocity differences in it. so much to just one key, and then you multiply that by the variety of samples that you get. It's a super comprehensive library. I mean, that's one key. I can just groove out on one key, varying the velocities, and just get this super awesome dynamic sequence. Percussion Deep is pretty similar. It's got some bass drum elements to it. I know Trolls likes to talk a lot about deep and high and mid, and that's kind of how he groups things in terms of frequencies. But Percussion Deep has a little bit more of an attack than maybe Epic Bass Drums does, or any of the other kicks that we've heard so far. Very get in and get out, very punchy, lots of crisp upper stuff as well as nice big support below. Not as much velocity filtering tricks on this one as with Epic Bass Drums, but still some good stuff as well. Really kind of unravels that gravelly kind of noisy sound the harder you hit. Yeah, and Percussion High is just a higher frequency range, kind of a similar approach. So as I said before, if you're a composer that loves to kind of just sit down and kind of fiddle through and find sounds that work and play a groove on one single instrument, this is just a super easy, user-friendly, very approachable library to work with. Moving on to the super drum parts, these are both very giant velocity-based, heavily round-robin kind of, almost an ensemble approach to big cinema drums. So this is gonna definitely have a little more layers, definitely sounds like maybe more than one drummer. I mean, this is like, just think massive. Yeah, and I'm just picking random keys, but it's easy to just fall into a groove like that. Let's check out the second one. Yeah. Woo, that's a nice one. Yeah, so really, really useful. You'll notice various levels of treatment. You know, some have like nice reverb trails on them. Some are really clean and crisp, and you can kind of put them through your own reverbs. As always, huge variety of stuff, everything you need and more. Moving on to cinematic Tocks, and I believe, if I'm understanding this correctly, as you know, there is also a Tock dedicated library. These are a little more piercing, a little more designed to cut through the mix. You know, I think a lot of times when you have big giant film scores going, it's really hard to have those kind of clicky sounds cut through, and so there's definitely a little more of an attack, a little more aggression, a little more mix-focused sounds here from these Tocks. And of course, the velocity round robin stuff is here as well. You can hear it most different in pitch, but that is actually a timbral shift coming from doing the same tick or tock multiple times, maybe with slightly different attacks. So that's a very quick glance at the parts that you get with cinematic drum kits. Let's head over to the program section where we have a wide variety of stuff. No shortage of ARPs here. So if you're looking for just kind of that quick plug and go situation, you can always pop over to the ARP section. Make sure you always check it, especially with libraries that are percussive, because some really cool sequences are written in here. Let's try this one by Trolls. This is called Cinematic Kit, 808 kicks, and I believe this would qualify, as a main part, so kind of a really subtle EQ, subtle Lexi reverb here. Do we have anything? Yeah, just little tiny things on the mod wheel, but as always, a awesome sequence to play with. Yeah, I like how that EQ kind of brings in the sizzle of the lo-fi aspect of that. But that's just one kit. I mean, we're almost getting a snare effect there on those downbeats, and that really is cool knowing that's coming from just the kicks part alone. Let's check out Arp Glowing. Yeah, so you're getting the picture. I mean, it's just like, yes, if you need something to groove, if you need something to move, this is just absolutely ripe with source material. I like this one. Arp Low Tuned Force. This is a cool one. Here we are using the ARP as kind of a sequencer arpeggiator hybrid, because as you can see, we have one note same, so you're limited to basically whatever the choices are for this program, but the velocity information is in here. But you could also write those notes in if you wanted to. Here comes Arp Vision. I knew I heard some subtle modulation in there. We've got a LFO going to the mix of our chorus, which is just kind of a nice way to gently zhuzh the phasing of your overall mix. It's very, very cool. This one's called Desert Heartbeat 02. This looks like it's just a kit with no ARP or sequence, and it is called Dark Force. And we have, let's see here, we got one note stretches across the board. Really taking advantage of those velocities. I mean, that was just one key. I hadn't even touched the mod wheel yet to bring in the filter action, and I was getting those timbral shifts just by how hard I was hitting it. Moving on to Freakbeat 01. Oh, we're gonna have a nice little ARP, and I'm already noticing some LFO action here. We have synced probably, let's see. Yeah, basically a synced square LFO to this filter here, this low pass filter. So we're gonna get some filter action happening. Bring up the resonance and really emphasize that. Ooh. So you will get some self-resonance from the filter if you want. I was using my mouse there like a plebe, but you could definitely route that to your MIDI CC wheel to kind of bring that up and bring in that resonance when you want to. This one's called Keops? Keops? I don't know how to pronounce that one. Whoa, okay, cool. So we're using the parametric analog filter here, which I rarely use. I was noticing kind of a thinning out effect as I was raising my mod wheel, and I was thinking, man, that could be a high pass, that could be reverse action happening or something like that, but no, we're just using the parametric profile here. And one thing I did want to point out, you actually do get presets based on each filter type. So right now we're on parametric and you have these options here, but if you switch that to say all pass, you have some all pass options, high shelf, low shelf, band reject, band pass, high pass, and low pass. So you get a nice set of presets for each, kind of show off the differences between the different profiles. And let's do one more here. This is called Tocks Instaperc. Yeah, so really playing with the mod wheel in real time just speaks to kind of the character and sweet spot of having a kit-oriented percussion library. Cool, cool. So let's make a program from scratch. And the thing that I'm kind of leaning most towards is creating a really dynamic drum kit, something that I can play, but maybe I am picking and choosing specific parts to kind of get a perfect kit, if you will, and maybe we'll do a sequence out of it as well. But as with all good drum kits, I think we should probably start with the kick. My gut is telling me to go with Cine kicks or epic bass drums, but I love these super drums so much. I think these are awesome, awesome samples. So I want to see if I can find something that's going to work in here first. That's a contender. Which one? I like that one because when you hit it, you really whack it, you can get the kind of, oh, yeah, that's a nice one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually one note same that. And this will serve as my kick part. Combining one note same with a key range that is literally just one key, the key that it is on, is a great way to kind of limit your specific samples to specific keys. I don't know about you, but when I think of drum kits and working with kits in DAWs, I definitely like to think about one single sample living on one single key. So a one note same here is going to give us that. So there's our kick. Then I'm gonna head over to percussion high and see what we can find in that. I mean, just about any of these will work to kind of find a groove. So I'm gonna just try and like see what comes out. So maybe that D sharp is a cool snare sound. And I do like that as kind of an accent. I like the trail that F is giving me. Oof. This is fun. Can you tell I'm having fun? Let's go ahead and just pop over to Arp here and see if we can plug in a little bit of a sequence. That's kind of a cool start. Let's play that, and I'm gonna turn off DAW sync here. I want it to be a little bit slower. Draw in some velocity. Make that snare sound nice and harsh. I do this, by the way. I kind of verbalize my groove. And that tells me where the accents should live. Cool, let's try that. That's working for me. Yeah. So let's really work on what's happening with that upper percussion part first. Sometimes I like to play around with note length. What if we got some LFOs on the panning here? And if you weren't a psychopath, you would tempo sync that, but because I'm running the same project to record this in as I am to do this, it's not gonna work so well. Maybe not that extreme. Oh, and of course, change our bias to center. Nice. Now I'm going to check out our kick layer here, which should just be the kick sound. Wow. Oh man. You can really hear the round robins. You hear the difference between all those kicks? That's awesome. Of course, because it is a non-tonal layer, we can pitch it to kind of get the best timbre. That's groovin'. The one thing that is kind of not as slappy or punchy as I want it to be is my snare sound. It's pretty high, which, you know, it's percussion high, but I think we can find something that's maybe a little more snare-ish. So I'm gonna turn these guys off, and I'm gonna go searching. I'll pull up percussion high again because I do feel like the snare frequency is high in the frequency range, but it might not be as high as what we've currently got going. That's nice. So the way we get that on D sharp 5 is we do one note same and then change our key range to just D sharp 5. Great. Now that kind of more bodied, slappy snare lives on the same key as our snare that we're using in our ARP, so this should sound a lot thicker. Oof. I'm gonna leave it where it is. Tune it down, maybe? Ooh. It's a nice little sequence here. I like this. So two things I want to do. I want to give myself dynamic control kind of over the whole thing, and my first gut reaction is to throw on a ladder filter and see if we can kind of, I'm tempted to try this 303 preset because that's kind of the territory we're in here. Oh. I like that. Let's do some CC assigning here to the mod wheel. And I'm gonna do a reverse of the same thing on the resonance so that that resonance isn't quite so high when we start to open up the filter. Tell I'm digging it. I'm gonna do some EQing here just to kind of do a little more shaping, maybe pull out some of those harsh kind of mids there. Let's find out where those live. Good guess. Oh yeah. Might even do, yeah, this little trick right here. Okay, nice. Ooh, that kick. I'm feeling a little DJ-ish here, so I kind of want to see what happens if I were to throw on a bucket brigade delay. We'll do ping pong, short. And again, you just tempo sync this, but can't do that right now. And I want to have control over that, but maybe not necessarily with the mod wheel. This is a great time to remind you that this is any MIDI CC. So, you know, on this controller here, that's CC 73. So maybe I'll just use that as kind of my delay control. And now I have a really dynamic kit happening. And as always, to make it just that much more cinematic, we can certainly use a nice big shimmer reverb. I recognize that this is not like low underscorey percussion. This is like the badass main character is doing something badass. It's not really like, but I'm having fun. Are you having fun? Gonna pull the pitch mix out here just as a precaution because, you know, don't really need that kind of vibe. And you know, I think that resonance can be even a little lower. And so can the cutoff, honestly. That's a little more cinematic. I like that. And I'm a big fan of experimenting. You know, what if we threw on a layer of like TikToks? I don't know what exists on these notes that I have in here, but it's gotta be good, right? Woo! And it is. Gonna throw that same, maybe a little more aggressive second LFO on that one. Going kind of fast here. And I'm gonna have the volume of that be a different MIDI CC slider. Cool. And we'll have it be from 0 to just about main. And now we have this super dynamic, player-friendly kit, and we can create something really magical in real time. That's cool. So relatively quickly, we ended up with this kind of super hybrid kit with all these elements sort of sorted out by parts and utilizing some one note same and kind of note range tricks. As I mentioned before, all of these parts are super velocity and round robin friendly. So, you know, it's feeling alive even though we're doing the same sequence over 16 beats. It's like, you know, it feels more different than that. It feels more alive than that, also aided by kind of the tricks we're using with the filter here and the delay. And, you know, it's a really, really organic instrument and super fun to play. So yeah, hybrid cinematic drum kits. And I think this is going to appeal to some workflows more than others. If you're someone that really likes to pinpoint your specific parts and you've got 6 different instances of Soundpaint, which all run seamlessly, of course, because it's so processor friendly, but it's all got a different element happening at a different time and you like to automate that specific layer. Maybe you want to just kind of use your ear candies and strums and your hits and impacts, but these are more kit friendly. This is more of like an alive instrument to me. With the round robins and the velocity velocities. You do have just a super dynamic access here within one library to just kind of like a live cinematic drummer. I'm thinking specifically about the trend of kind of doing percussion specific scores, telling a story with those inflections, with those round robins, with those velocities within just a completely percussive setting. Antonio Sanchez's score on Birdman comes to mind. You know, if you want to do something like that, but maybe with a little more modern flair, a little more processed sounds, this is a really fun one to work with. So you're getting 8 comprehensive parts here with cinematic drum kits, all so much attention paid to round robins and velocities. It really becomes less about what each note to note is and what exists on one specific note based on how you play it. So if you like to play along to your scores, if you like to really have dynamic interactions with your libraries and be inspired by the magic of what exists within a velocity, this is the way to go. It's an awesome, super fun kit to play with. And I hope you had fun grooving out with me today. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for taking a journey with me. I will see you next time. This is Chimy, signing out. Take care.